Memphis Grizzlies had the trade deadline last Thursday. Drew and I were here for the marathon show, dude. Like, I had a lot of fun with that. Shout out to Kenny for giving us
Yeah.
the bathroom break because we both were doing like the dance here in our chairs. And then Kenny's like, "Hey, I can hop in and give y'all a bathroom break." And we were like,
Please.
So if you were here for that marathon, first of all, get a life. Like, why are you hanging out with us for 2 hours? Second of all, thank you. Like, that was awesome. The comments were popping and it crashed out hard, Drew. So we're several days removed now. By this recording, we're 4 days removed. What's your overall take on how the trade deadline shook out for the Memphis Grizzlies?
You know, I still have to be fine with it. You know, I'm still happy with the team that we've got. I know we didn't land the superstar, but leading up to the trade deadline, I said that there's a real possibility that we're going to not make any significant moves, and that's okay. And that's what happened. So I have to be okay with it, despite Saturday being such a debacle. Although I don't think that was a personnel issue as much as it was a mindset issue.
Because the likelihood is whoever we got was not going to play Saturday anyway, but more on that to come.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess I'm still okay with it. I'm not the biggest naysayer when it comes to the Marcus Smart news. I know there's a lot of people that thought that Marcus Smart would have been important in the playoffs. I don't think he should have played. Therefore, I don't really think his voice is a voice that was going to be respected, especially since he hasn't played really his whole tenure for the Grizzlies. And then Jake LaRavia, as much as I love him and stump for him on this show, I know that in the playoffs he was not going to play. Yeah. And so I'm good with it. You know, we're going to see what happens. I still one day want to see Zach Kleiman seal the deal on one of these trades we keep hearing about being in the mix for.
Agreed. And so that's kind of where I land. Like, back this summer, you gave me crap about it then and now, rightfully so. I was stumping for roster flexibility. Let's roll it out. Let's see what we have, right? And that's what we got. So summer me is happy. But what I saw leading up to it, I did think that a move was necessary. And again, I don't think, and I know some people, and you're probably in the comments now, Future Rusty set them straight, but like, you can stump all you want and say, see, we should have gotten Cam Johnson or we should have gotten Kevin Durant. But like, this is not 2K. Couple things. This is not 2K. We don't have auto trade put on. We clearly called about Kevin Durant. It was reported we called about 2 hours before the trade deadline ended. We obviously had conversations around Jimmy Butler. The ZK said no formal offer was made. That's word salad. We were engaged, but no formal offer was made. It wasn't written down, but we were engaged in that trade conversation.
It's like the old college football thing. You only offer the coach that you hire so that you can always say, we got our guy. Nobody ever wants to say, oh, we offered 8 coaches, even though you probably did talk seriously with 8 coaches. I didn't offer only one, and he took the job.
That's it. And so that's what that means. In the end, like Cam Johnson ended up being more expensive than what we wanted to pay. And we also saw what the league at large thought about Marcus Smart's trade value. The fact that we literally had to send a first-round pick with him to Washington to get him off of our roster. And so, like, we valued Marcus Smart and we as in fans, way more than the league at large did. Thanks in large part to websites like Fanspo and ESPN Trade Machine and all these places where anybody with a pulse can log on there and make a trade that's like, this works. It makes sense. Like, but this is not real life. And so for me, it's a bummer that that's how it went. It is. I would have loved Cam Johnson on this team. I still think that there's a real chance we could get Cam Johnson this summer, probably for a heck of a lot cheaper when the Spurs offered a young prospect and 2 first-round picks and they said no. So, like, we'll be able to get him a lot cheaper this summer if we choose to go that way. But I am completely fine with betting on the leaders that we have on this team, Ja, Dez, and Jaren, and the youth that we have on this team with Gigi, Jalen, Vince, and Edie, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I would have been much angrier at the trade deadline if Cam Johnson, Colin Sexton, John Collins, all these guys were moved to other teams. But they weren't. Ultimately, every single person, and Zach Kleiman said this in his post-trade deadline press conference, everybody we called about, nobody actually left their team. No offer was beaten. Our offer did not get beaten. They just didn't take any offer that was on the table. And you know Cam Johnson they had to have 10 offers all on the table. Same with Sexton. Like it didn't happen. And you can blame Zach Kleiman, say he couldn't seal the deal, whatever. But chances are, I'm going to bet money that the reason why these players are not playing for the Grizzlies is because he was not willing to give up G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., or Jalen Wells.
And call us apologists or purists or whatever you want, but that's the fact. Like, that's very likely what happened. And I'm going to choose to believe that he stood on business and said no, especially in the Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler trades. Like, miss me with, let's send out Gigi for 1 year of Jimmy Butler or Kevin Durant. Like, yeah, that probably leads to a championship, but then you've effectively closed your championship window when neither of them re-sign next year. Versus you ride with what you have now. You see, okay, after the Thunder game, we clearly need rebounding help, and we still need another bucket for when guys like Ja and Dez just don't have it. Right. Let's do that this summer. Like, you forget, like, the trade deadline is closed from now until June, but after the finals, teams can still move players around. So there's still a likelihood that there's a new Memphis Grizzly next year. And you and I have already kind of talked about this. Like, we can talk about that more in a second. Love your thoughts, but also, Drew, we're kind of talking ourselves into the idea of Marvin Bagley being somebody that could inject life in the team. Not that he's going to be a role player, but somebody that could provide a spark.
Yeah. And just to put a bow, like, it's obvious too that whether you want to admit it or not, these players are not wanting to come to Memphis. And that makes you prize your draft picks even more. Exactly. Because Kevin Durant said, I don't want to go to Memphis. Jimmy Butler said, I don't want to come to Memphis. And you always thought that John Morant would allow people to the desire to come play for Memphis. But that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And so it makes you covet those draft picks even more.
When you're the smallest market of the team, the smallest market in the NBA, that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Marvin Bagley, yeah, I mean, you watch the supercuts of him last year playing for a deplorable Washington Wizards team, and I totally see it. You know, he was the fact that we're talking about his college career says all you need to know about his pro career, 6, 7 years into his pro career for Marvin Bagley. But his college career, what you saw is what you saw glimpses of last year. And that is just a tall, high motor rebounder and finisher. And if that's not exactly what the archetype is that works well with John Morant, then I don't know what to tell you. If he's healthy and you get topped out Marvin Bagley, what you're looking at is a taller Brandon Clark. Neither of them shoot the three very well. They're both very active, good rebounders, and can score in the post. And so, I mean, I'm all in on giving Marvin Bagley a try. His problem has always been, can he stay healthy? And if he does stay healthy, it's on absolute rat teams. And this is a dude who, coming out of college, was a fierce, high motor competitor. And he has not been in a situation that allows him to compete. And so I've got hopes. I want to see him get some run. And I know that his run is going to be limited if everybody stays healthy, particularly your bigs. But I do want to see him get some run.
Agreed, because we've talked about it. He's a bigger Brandon Clark. He's a great lob threat. He's a rim protector. And, Drew, I give you a couple case examples of careers we revitalized in Memphis. One, Tony Allen, who's number 9, will be put in the Raptors next month. One, Zach Randolph, whose number is already in the Raptors. And you could probably throw Marc Gasol in there because he was just kind of a second-round draft pick with the Lakers and really wasn't going to amount to much out there. So you could throw those guys in there. Tayshaun Prince came in and had a decent back half of his career. So, like, we've been known to help guys revitalize careers. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Bagley's going to be our starting big.
You've also seen you bring in the injured guys and it doesn't work out.
Danny Green, Marcus Smart, like, it happens, right? It does.
Chandler Parsons.
No,
Winslow.
We do not say the CP word on this show.
I'm making my point.
An anti-Parsons show.
If I'm trying to make a point, I'm not going to take out Exhibit A, okay?
I hear you. Anyway, God, man, I was already having a rough day. Now you're making it worse by so much. Anyway, so I'm not sitting here saying that he's going to be our starting big or one of our bigs contributing in the postseason. But why not see what happens? You know, Edey, we'll get transitioned to the Thunder game here in a minute, was absolutely unplayable Saturday night. It forced us to go small ball, and we got our butt kicked on the glass because of it. That was my point on the Daily Grind yesterday morning. Not that Edey was unplayable. And so on nights like that, maybe Bagley is the answer. He can come in and give you some minutes. And so, again, I don't think he's going to be a high-level contributor, but there is upside. It's not a complete wash.
I can 100% see a scenario where Bagley is healthy and active, that he is a better fit with John Morant than Zach Edey. I've been saying that. I've been on this train since before the season started.
That's why I wanted Khalil Ware, because he's big, he's athletic, he plays above the rim, and Ja does not have a lob threat right now. Gigi can be that. Gigi's probably the closest to a lob threat that we have, but he's only 6'10". You get Marvin Bagley down there. Marvin Bagley is a true lob threat. And so now, especially with the way Ja is averaging 7.5 assists this year, the most of his career, you add a guy like Marvin Bagley, that might get closer to 9.